Hey guys, welcome back. This is Kenny, Sherv.
Sure.
Back with our Stutter support group. This is episode 1 official. Tonight's topic we're going to talk about is the worst experience that you've ever had with this speech impediment.
Yeah, I've had more than a couple myself, Kenny.
Oh yeah, I have too. Trust me. We'd love to hear from you guys. Please comment below, ask us questions, share your thoughts, share your experiences. And
please like and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, that too, for sure. Thumbs up. So Sherv, I'll let you kind of take the lead with this, and I know you're very eager to share your experience. It's very it's very important to you. So
yeah, well, thank you, Kenny. I could tell you, as someone who has a speech disfluency that I imagine many of you have, you would kind of share my fear of talking in public. You know, for me, I realized that a lot of my anxiety could be visible. You know, maybe I'll clench my fists. Maybe I won't have such a good body language. And also, internally, I have a lot of uncomfortable feelings as well. You know, like that dark, warm feeling in your chest. That feeling that a couple words into your sentence that you're going to get caught up on. And maybe, you know, you have that fear of people laughing at you, and then it's a hard break. A lot of time passes. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. And I have experienced that a lot, you know, from little things, such as I remember one time I was in an elevator with a neighbor, and he would talk to me at times, and I'll never forget one time on the way up he asked me something, and I had a break, and he gave me a dirty look. I mean, I was like in my young teens, and I never forgot that. Like, he gave me a dirty look, but I don't think that's his fault. He's probably never encountered someone who has this I don't know how you would describe it. This stutter. I remember in college I would ask a question, and one time an ugly girl turned around, gave me a dirty look, and I was like, wow, you know, yeah, at least I don't. Well, I don't want to get into that. You know, too much negativity is not good for anybody.
Let's not.
Yeah, let's pause that. But I would say my worst experience, I would say, I'll never forget this. I had a oral report I had to do in front of a class. And again, all of those, you know, body language type things, those feelings that I alluded to earlier had came up. And I was very uncomfortable. It was a long break, and finally the teacher had interrupted and said something along the lines of, "We can't understand what you're saying. You know, we can't continue on like this. Why don't you sit down?"
The teacher said that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So, and it was kind of embarrassing, you know. I won't say kind of. It definitely was embarrassing.
For sure embarrassing.
Yeah, it was in front of the whole class. And, you know, I often think back, what can I learn from these types of situations? You know, is there anything good that can come from feeling humiliated, maybe feeling like you didn't do a good job, is not a good ambassador of yourself? And there are some things that I could come away with that I think has really helped me personally. Number one is definitely body language. I've read several books on the subject, and I found that there's something called the power pose. So when you have your shoulders back like this, you have your head back, you feel that confidence.
Confidence.
Yeah, you know, it's you against the world, and that's all it is, really. And in essence, that is what it is. You're representing yourself to everybody, and you should have the courage to follow through with it, whether it's good or bad. Nobody likes a quitter. Everyone likes follow through, and I think you owe that to yourself. Another thing is to be prepared. That I think is the number one thing, especially in things like job interviews or maybe like a first date. or that very awkward time where you're calling a girl for the first time. For me, usually I'm in my car, I'm on Bluetooth, trying to get relaxed. What am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? It's be prepared. Do your due diligence. That's so important. Because the last thing you want to happen is, even though you stutter now, you don't want to compound that with not knowing what you're talking about. You don't want to wing it. At least I don't. I've never felt I was in a position to wing it. I've always felt that I did my best performance when I practiced beforehand. I know recently I had a job interview at a big time company, and I gotta tell you, I knew everything. I read the annual report, I read the 10K, everything, and I came in and I was so confident.
Because you're confident.
Exactly.
That helps a lot, I agree.
It sure does. And even though during that interview I did have a break, I caught myself. I was with two other gentlemen. I paused. I apologized. And, something great happened. The individual interviewing me said, don't worry about it. I did it the other day. No problem. And after the interview ended, he even made a joke. He said, those damn S's. And I said, tell me about it, man. You know what I'm saying? Sure. So, that's what
I wish more people were like that.
Yeah, I wish so too. That's a good point. So, you can't control how people are going to handle an awkward situation, but you could most definitely handle how you react to an awkward situation.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And touching on what he said with confidence, that's really all it is. When you go into an interview or a presentation or something like that, if you're confident, you know the material, you know the audience you're speaking to or speaking with, it goes a lot farther than you just going in cold and just nervous.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help at all.
No.
I'll quickly share an experience I had. The very first time I spoke in public to people for my job, as some of you remember, I mentioned in the previous intro video that I'm in sales. The very first time I did a presentation was about maybe 6 years ago or so, or 7 years ago, and I spoke in front of a group of 45 people.
Wow, 45
That's people. Yeah, that's scary within itself.
Did you imagine them in their underpants?
No. I don't. A lot of people say that, but I try, but I can't. Anyway, so it's scary already. I'm sure a lot of people out there that don't even stutter or have any sort of impediment or condition or whatever, you still get those butterflies in your stomach that, wow, I have to speak in front of how many people?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's scary within itself.
45 is a lot.
45, even 10 people is a lot.
Sure.
Because they're staring at you. So you just have to be confident. But that was my very first, actually it was my worst experience in it, because I started a lot. I did. I can't tell you specifically what letters or what words or anything, but I did throughout the entire thing. It went about, it was about an hour long, and I can't even count how many times I stuttered in that session. It's just, things like this happen, and like Sheriff was saying, it's, I don't think it's so much of a bad thing. You learn from it. You learn from how you dealt with the situation, how people reacted to you, and you just grow from it.
Well, Cam, let me ask you this, man. What kind of feeling do you have in your body, in your mind, when you know a break's coming? Do you feel really negative about? Do you have any tricks of the trade you could share?
Well, I just get really nervous, and I know, like what you were saying previously about, kind of what word is coming up in the next 2 or 3 or 4 words. You just know when you're talking, and you hope coming. It doesn't happen, but it does. For instance, if I, in sales, and I keep going back to this because this is my life now, it's my career, so it happens a lot. But for instance, the word territory, I have trouble with. when I'm speaking in a sentence to somebody. If I'm talking to them on the phone, it was really bad one time when I was on the phone with a coworker, maybe about a year ago, and I was talking to them about something with work, and I said, it's in my territory. But when I said territory, it was really bad with the T. With the T, it was very bad. It was like, it was just kept going on and on and on and on for like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. It was really bad. And then I get like, I don't know, my body just like, I just sped up, even though you should calm yourself and breathe and stop, try to start again.
I find it very interesting how long 10 to 15 seconds could be when you're in that situation. I mean, just saying it sounds like it's quick.
Yeah,
when you're in the moment, it could be a lifetime.
It is. And you feel, I felt embarrassed, but, what are you going to do? This is who you are. People know. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's the way that you kind of grow from it. And you just know how to cope with it throughout the years. And just be yourself.
Well, let me ask you this, Kenny. We've been childhood friends, and I didn't know this about you, but in our intro video, you had said you had saw a speech therapist. I've seen a couple myself.
Yeah,
I've seen a speech psychologist as well. What was your experience with that like? What did he tell you about your condition, and has it helped you at all?
Yeah, it was a very long time ago.
How old were you?
Probably maybe around probably like 10 to 13, something like that. Because it was really bad then. And I kind of grew out of it, but then, it sticks with you forever. You can get better, but I don't know if you ever outgrow it.
No, I'm with you.
So she taught me to, breathing exercises. She taught me that if I sense it coming on, to just stop and start over.
Has that helped you?
I mean,
be honest.
Not really, because
it
you
didn't help me either.
Because you don't stop, and if I'm talking in a conversation, I don't stop and say, "Oh, I'm going to start over now."
Yeah, exactly.
You don't do that. You just keep talking and do your best and fight through it and whatever. In certain cases, like that time I was on the phone, I tried to say territory. It's now I didn't do it, but if you were there, you would have said, "Wow, that was really bad." That's probably other than the presentation that I had that went, I think overall it went well in the end, but I struggled. But this is another time that I struggled.
How long
recently.
Did you see this speech therapist for?
It's a couple of years.
Couple of years? Wow, that's a pretty long time.
It was a couple of years. It helped to some extent, but throughout the years, like, you don't really remember everything they're going to tell you. You don't sit there, practice breathing exercises. Maybe some people do. I didn't.
Yeah. I know for me personally, I've seen a number of them. I've even tried some devices, and some of them were very expensive. And I'll share my experience. The most memorable to me was I know I was in college. Although I've been there, I've seen specialists beforehand, and to me, it's one of those things that if someone hasn't done it, if someone hasn't experienced it, it's hard to take that kind of advice from them, that kind of feedback. It's like having a coach that never played the game. You know what I mean? Like what are you telling me?
Yeah.
That
annoys me so much.
Yeah, if you don't do it,
I don't tell you how to do
your
exactly. Things. Don't tell me.
It's a very amateur opinion.
Yeah.
And I felt that a lot. I get a lot of that feedback when people say, "Oh, why don't you just try this?" Like they just thought of it in 5 seconds.
And I've never thought of it.
I've lived up my whole life this way.
My speech therapist, who was a doctor, never thought of that either.
Yeah.
But thank God you did.
Yeah, thank God you did. And this comes from family too.
Oh, for
family, close friends, people who mean well, but I mean,
it's conveyed wrong.
Yeah,
it's not.
And you hear it
good
so
intentions,
many times.
But it's not.
Yeah. So anyway, when I saw this doctor, I kind of wanted to gauge where I was at on the spectrum. Am I severe? Am I good? And I led with, I'm not so bad, right? You know what I mean? My situation's pretty good, right? And he said, no, you definitely stutter. And I think the word severe was thrown in there as well, which was fine. And the things he taught me was, I remember first we sat down, and he said, tell me about yourself. And I know he was gauging my body language, and his philosophy was, there's a pattern in your mind where maybe you clench your fists, or you hold your nose, or you sit a certain way, and you want to break up that pattern. At least for me, that was not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I did those things, but that was out of pure frustration. I can't do it. It is what it is. It's like trying to fight a bear. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. So he had me do these exercises, and again, I was in college, where he wanted me to say my name to 10, 20 random strangers and introduce myself. Get out of here. I'm not doing that. Have you ever been embarrassed to your core? Like you're trying to introduce yourself, you want something, your intentions are all aligned, the stars are all aligned, but you physically can't do it? That's what it feels like. It's a terrible feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't do those things naturally. Just like with your breathing exercises, I've been told to do that too. There was a camp I went to that emphasized something called smooth speech, something where you opened your airways, and basically, for one breath, you would talk a whole sentence.
Oh, I've done that too.
Yeah,
no.
If you want to talk like an alien, or have someone, there's some things worse than stuttering.
That's one of them.
Yeah, that's definitely one
You
of them.
don't
I
do
didn't
that.
want to. Nobody talks like that.
No.
So
just like nobody starts their sentence all over again if you're already a word away.
So that's the biggest thing, getting feedback from people, maybe who are well read or maybe have a lot of experience with people who have this condition, but they don't know what it feels like. And I think that's the biggest disconnect there. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, Kenny, growing up with your friends, it's never been an issue with you. You've always had a lot of friends, and it was always fine. You never...
Yeah, it was always fine, but just growing up, especially at that those teenage years when kids are kind of, rebellious and, think it's cool to make fun of others. And, I had my share of that. I ran into that, for sure.
Haven't we all?
In high school.
For sure.
Even my close friends, they would, bust my chops and, make fun of me every so often. That was all in good fun. But I did run into some, I guess nowadays you call it bullying, but I wasn't really bullied. It was just, some people, messing with me, but... whatever. I never really let it get to me because what are you going to do about it? This is who you are. If you let it really get to you and bother you, which I guess is easier said than done not to, it's just going to ruin you. And you can't let those people do that to you. You got to have that sense of confidence, like Sherv was saying earlier, not only in job interview or presentation or a speech or whatever you're doing in front of a bunch of people, even when you're dealing with one person.
Yeah.
Just in passing, hello, just say hi or pass by or stop and talk for a couple minutes, or even your neighbor or something like that. You're afraid. It doesn't matter. This is who you are. People know. My coworkers know that I do it. It's fine. I've heard a comment before. So what? It is what it is, man. There's, again, kind of circling back to why we have this channel here for everybody to kind of come on and share their experiences with us, as we're doing with you. Comment, ask questions, give us advice, or ask for our advice if you want, if you want it. Just, it's all about that. It's just
I agree with you, Kenny. I know for myself, I've always had a lot of friends too. But in the beginning, growing up, I was raised in New York City, and I was brought up in the public school system there. I could tell you in the 80s and 90s, New York was a pretty tough place. And, going there, not knowing anybody, I got a lot of negative reactions. You know, kids could be cruel,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of took a toll on me too. You know, I had to develop some personal problems with other people, and they were sorted out one way or another. And you know,
No comment.
I think that's just a part of life.
Yeah.
You know, I've always felt that, you know, to really gain a character, to be someone with substance, you have to go through something in your life.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes you who you are. I mean,
Yeah.
diversity and things like that. It for sure makes you who you are. It makes you a better person, stronger, and you know, develop thick skin.
So just to circle with what I was saying, going to that the therapist, I just remember this, and I think it's important to the conversation. He once asked me, the therapist, is there anything good that you see that has came out from stuttering? And I remember I paused a little bit, and I was thinking to myself, you know, I don't belong here. This guy has no idea what the hell he's talking about. Is there anything good about, you know, any disability really?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy doing that?
Yeah.
Or being perceived to have a disability? And I came up with an answer, and I said, you know, being in that environment gives you a tougher skin. And he had said something like, oh, that's a very, forget the word he used, like a old world, a Christian way of viewing things. It was something out of left field.
That's weird.
I was like, okay. And he went into this whole spiel of how I'm a beautiful speaker. And again, this all goes back to, like, you don't know what you're talking about, man.
No.
I can understand that you're trying to fill up this time hour.
That's what it is.
That you're milking all of my money. It's just filling the air with words.
Yeah.
You don't know me.
Yep. Filling the airtime.
Yeah,
really.
filling the, you know, so, but if you ask me now, as someone who has stuttered all their life, and believe me, if you think that I'm a fluid speaker now, you don't know my troubles. You know, I've been in situations where I couldn't order food, where I had to hang up the phone. I have very often been in situations where I wanted to order a food, I couldn't say it, so I have to say another food.
Yeah.
I've been in situations.
I've done that before too.
Terrible.
Especially when you're out to dinner with a bunch of people that you may not know, and
Exactly.
it's a group that you have friends there, but then they have their friends of friends of friends, and or family members that you don't know, and you just get really, you just get a little tight. It's tense,
you know, I'm with you, buddy.
Tense, and you don't know what to say, and then all of a sudden you're like, you want the pizza, but you get the ravioli because you're stuck on the P and you can't.
And
you
it's
want
especially bad when the ravioli's terrible.
Yeah.
That's the real kick in the groin. Because you wanted the pizza.
Yeah.
Everybody knows you wanted the pizza. But you went with the ravioli because it was easier to say. You know, another thing.
Don't let that happen.
Yeah, no. Order the pizza. Just another thing that I think you'd find funny, Kenny. I had a college girlfriend who had lived at home with her parents, who had a sister which was kind of a tough cookie. And initially, I would call her at her house, and I would pray to God that it was her answering the phone. But it could have been her sister, it could have been her mom, it could have been her dad, and that was a really tough pill to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
Remember one time I called and her sister answered. I was like, oh, I really don't want to talk to this lady, so I hung up. And this had happened a couple of times, and one time she called me back, so I hung up the phone. Then she called me back, and I hung up the phone again.
That's before caller ID.
Yeah, before
so she probably did like *69 or something and called you back.
Exactly. And I hung up all of the times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it happens. These are things that happen to all of us. But the important thing is to order the pizza. Do what it is that you want to do. If it happens, it's going to happen.
Yep.
You know, 6 generations from now, no one's going to remember anything that's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to remember that time and how you would have been happier if you made the other decision, the right decision.
That's right. That's right. And you learn from all those experiences. And don't let people get you down is the most important thing. Because you live once, life is short. Just be you. Do what you got to do. Be you.
Follow what your dreams are. You shouldn't feel embarrassed about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of people that, in my opinion, are just out of their minds. So,
yeah, and don't feel like you can't do something just because you have this speech impediment. You can
Yeah.
do anything.
you really can do anything. And I've heard a lot of celebrities do it, although I'm really bad with remembering these. But I remember a basketball player,
Mm-hmm.
Kenyon Martin. He wouldn't do interviews for a while, I think.
Yeah, he had it pretty bad too. Although that is for another episode.
Oh, sure.
We are going to talk about that.
Celebrities who have
We
had
are
it.
going to talk about celebrities, public figures, politicians, news anchors, whoever, everybody in the public eye who has had this speech impediment, and maybe you didn't know about it. But
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later on.
absolutely. And Kenny, I've always thought that like society has these certain. I'm having the difficulty not saying it, just framing what it is I want to say. I want to say cues of what certain people are like. Yeah, I think that I'm going to go with that. And how many people in Hollywood or cartoons and anything, Kenny, I'm asking you this. Can
Mm-hmm.
you remember off the top of your head who Stutter? Do you know of any? I could think of one.
Any celebrity?
Yeah,
Actor you're talking about?
or in a movie or in a TV show that represented someone who stutters, because that's part of the problem, right? A lot of times people don't come across with somebody who does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe, I mean, I don't know how common this issue is, but I mean there seem to have been times where I've communicated with someone and they've given me like a weird look, like what's happening right now. And I think part of that
I've
is
gotten
like,
that too.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it must be
because
a
it
rare
makes
thing.
them uncomfortable,
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
like, "Wait, well, what do I do? What do I say?"
So back to my question: can you think of anyone off top, maybe a TV series, or a movie, or a play, or a cartoon? I could think of one, but I don't want to taint your answer.
When you think of cartoons, I could think of one. Is it was it Elmer Fudd?
Yeah, it was Elmer Fudd, man. That's
That's
what I'm
what-
thinking. And Elmer Fudd was a bozo. You know, it's
Yeah.
not a good representation.
Yeah,
of
that's
who we
that's
are.
not really a good representation, because that kind of portrays everybody does this as a bozo, and that's not true. A lot of professionals have this. A lot of people, you'll be surprised. We've come up with a very, very long list. That's why we don't want to get into it too much now, because that's for another episode, and we'll just focus on that.
So you don't know anyone off top? Maybe a movie? I know there was one, The King's Speech. I never saw that though, but that was literally the only time. Winston Churchill did it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Winston Churchill.
But don't
so.
give away too much.
No,
We're gonna
I won't.
We're
It's
gonna
just
talk
a little
about that
something for future.
for the future. Yeah.
Well, you do agree with me. Maybe part of it is that it's
I do.
not packaged the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be beneficial if maybe people were exposed to it a little sooner. Maybe that could minimize the issue.
Yeah. Or maybe if it was portrayed more often,
Yeah, exactly.
because it's not a bad thing. It's a reality
Yeah.
that
and
that is
along those lines of it not being a bad thing, it kind of, when you do it yourself and you don't have any reference, anyone to look to or seeing anyone who does it, you may feel like you're a damaged person. At least I have at times.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I'm getting really tired of saying S for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just forget it. Forget it.
Yeah, just quit. There
Yeah.
have been those times. That's a good point you bring up. There have been those times. A lot throughout my life where you just say forget it. I just
just forget it.
just forget whatever. Just move on.
Yeah.
But it's you can't let that happen. You cannot let that happen.
Yeah, because you never know what those roads would go to. Part of the thing I've learned as an adult, like when there's a new venture, you want to talk to everybody. You want to get on as many conference calls, meet as many people as you want, because you'll never know when the other person has what it is that you're looking for. You could have a win-win relationship just 2 or 3 degrees of separation away, but because you feel timid, because you feel like you may get embarrassed, or
you don't go for it.
Yeah, you don't go for it.
But you have to just go for it. Exactly.
And
I agree.
I think that's a big
and I actually see that a lot these days in you. You're actually being more proactive in your career with conference calls, with meetings, with just more interaction with people on a daily basis, like I do.
You have to.
And once you get into that mode and you make it a part of your life, it actually does help you. It becomes easier because you don't get that nervous anymore just because of the situation, not so much because of your stuttering and you're embarrassed or whatever. Like I said before, when you get up in front of a number of people, a large crowd, you already have those butterflies. If you stutter as well on top of that, well, then it's magnified by 100.
Yeah.
And you really feel tense and like you just don't want to do it. But you cannot let that take you over. You can't, because that's going to hold you back. And like I said, you live once. Do what you got to do. Just get up there, be confident, be you. Don't let anybody bring you down. Or if they make fun of you, move on, brush it off.
Yeah, definitely brush it off.
Don't worry about it.
No, yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah.
Again, easier said than done, but you just got to condition yourself to do that, to just be that way. Wire yourself differently.
But Kenny, part of the luck of the draw is sometimes there's good days too. I remember I had this day that I had no breaks at all. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you how good this day I had was.
Yep.
This was just one day, and I still remember this one day. It was years and years ago. Oh, definitely over 10 years ago. I could speak so well without a break. I went to a Foot Locker. I talked to the sales guy, and I talked my way to getting a discount on the shoes. Have you ever heard of that happening?
No.
Yeah.
Not in a retail shop.
Yeah, I got him to use his employee discount for me.
Wow.
And then after that, I went to a college gym with my friends, and I could not shut up. I was talking to everybody. I was talking to all the guys there. I was talking to all the ladies there. I was saying hello to all the ladies. I was talking during the basketball game. I was just on cloud 9, and you never know when that's going to happen.
Without
without literally no breaks.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So when you go up there and you give that talk, when you give that a report or speech in college, just go up there, and you never know. Have that confidence. Maybe things are going to work out for you this time. Be prepared. Be ready. It's going to turn out good.
And not only be confident in yourself, but be confident in what you're talking about, too. Know the content, because if you do, you'll do fine. Sometimes people try to memorize things and get up there and they forget the last second, especially because of their stuttering, and they just get all flustered and they can't remember anything. And then they just stand up there and turn white.
Well, let me ask you this, Kenny. We began this episode talking about what are some of our most negative experiences with our speech impairment.
Impairment. Same. I mean, however you want to say.
Have you ever been in the crowd looking at someone else who's experiencing those same issues? Maybe not stuttering or something else, or maybe someone who stuttered. I don't know.
I have.
What was that like?
It was during a presentation that I gave not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago. And I remember a gentleman sitting in the way back of the room. He had asked me a question, and he had a form of speech disfluency. It wasn't.
What was it like?
Stuttering, but he was almost like slurring a lot. Slurring his speech a lot. And I'm not quite sure what it was, what you call it, but I mean, it was definitely some sort of speech disfluency. I'm not even sure if that's a word. Is it?
I don't. To be honest with you, I don't think so.
Disfluency?
Well,
What do you guys
it sounds
think?
fluency, disfluent. Maybe.
Fluent, disfluency. It's probably a word that he
Please
made up.
leave
so
it in the comments below. You know, if disfluency is a word or not.
He makes a lot of things up.
No, never. Confidence.
Anyway, so yeah, so somebody asked me a question. And he had a bit of a speech impediment, not stuttering like
How
we
did
do.
you react to that?
But I did not react anyway. I mean, I just let him have his time, and that's it. And actually, everybody else in the room who were his coworkers, they also know that he has this condition.
Oh, sure.
So they also, everybody was patient. They gave him time, and that's what it is. That's what I wish more people were like that, instead of smirking or laughing or
that's a
shaking their
terrible
head
reaction.
and like coming out like your teacher, which I can't believe a teacher did that to a young kid. Said, "Oh, we can't go on anymore." Like, what is that? You don't do that. I mean, there has to be. I wish there were more better people in this world than there are now.
Do you think people, majority of people, react to us the way you reacted to that gentleman?
Say that again.
Do you you had mentioned that that person had slurred their words a little bit, and you acted
A lot. Yeah.
calm, cool, and collected?
Yeah.
Do you feel that people handle that with us?
No, not all the time.
Yeah.
Not all the time. That's why I said I wish there was more people that really understood and were either just nicer people in general, not so mean to everybody that is maybe a little bit different than they are. Not just maybe with speech, but maybe appearance or whatever it is. But in this case, it's speech. Yeah, I mean, it's just tolerance. I mean, some people are not tolerant with that, and they're very vocal. And I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of different videos, like in the news these days, that people get they're impatient with things. They get into fights with people, argument in public, and it just turns really bad. Again, that's not speech, doesn't have to do with us, but just talking about how we wish people were more patient and nicer to each other.
I gotta tell you, Kenny, I have the same experience, man. I didn't know what your answer was going to be. It could have gone either way, really, because I mean we're all so unique. But I could tell you that I've received some pretty bad reactions out of college. I was determined to get over this. Have you ever seen someone who just gets over it, and how amazing that is? Mm-hmm. And you think, how great would it be just to have that confidence every day, just to go out and say what you want? Mm-hmm. I really, really wanted to be one of those people. So coming out of college, I took a job where I was a financial advisor. And part of that is making a lot of cold calls. I'm sure some of you in the audience know where I'm going with this.
It's terrible.
Yeah, making 75 phone calls a day. And if you have a speech disfluency, I can't tell you how many times I called someone and I couldn't even say hello, and they thought it was a prank call. I've had people say they're going to call the cops if I call them again. I've had someone. The most reaction is to hang up as I'm trying to say something. That's pretty bad. And the way I would handle it, I mean, I think this is part of my personality as well. I would call them back and apologize for getting disconnected.
Oh, yeah.
But usually I couldn't even get that far because they'd hang up again.
They just hang up again. Yeah. It's caller ID now.
Yeah, it's caller ID.
Block your number.
I think the rules are different now, but, then maybe my next door person would call. Cubicle.
But I'm glad he's bringing that up, because that's maybe one phone call, right? Maybe that's your first phone call. But did you give up after that one phone call?
I didn't, and I may have remained at that job longer than I should have. Because, I mean, look, I'm doing my best. I don't know if I'll ever be 100% fluent all the time. But I know one thing for sure, that I'm not going to be somebody else. Well, that's also a very tricky road to go down too, because how do you think stuttering has changed your life. I think it's the biggest factor in my life. I mean, think about what kind of person you would be.
For sure, it
if you never happen.
Because if somebody asks you what's your biggest, I don't know, tell me one thing negative about your life. I mean,
it's the first thing I think.
This is what you would say. You wouldn't say
same for you.
You wouldn't say anything else. Yeah, this is what it is for me too. And it's a challenge every day. But you just tell yourself, I'm going to be better today. I'm going to pace myself, and that's it. Without thinking too much about it, because you can't.
Oh, exactly. When I think of the kind of person I would be if I didn't have it, I have maybe a totally different person. Some people say I have a sense of humor, and I think that comes with
very
trying to
humor.
A wonderful thing. Just trying to break it up. Maybe distract a bit from the conversation. Maybe make it an easier conversation, break the ice a little bit, or maybe even think about. Even me thinking about the person I would be if I didn't do it, I mean, I wouldn't have those thoughts, right? Maybe I wouldn't give as much of an emphasis on speech, and maybe learning things about a body language, learning, how important it is to be prepared, having that courage. Maybe courage is the right word, yeah?
Yeah.
To just go into fire knowing that it could end terribly. Mm-hmm. It's going to ruin your day.
But you can't let it ruin you.
I mean, it's different. We're all different. Our time here is so limited.
I mean, and let's be real. Like, just not only speech impediment, but like everybody's got their thing, right? That's
so true.
We just said, if somebody asks you what's the biggest negative about you. Well, you're not going to say, "Oh, I wish my hair was this," or "I wish my." You're not going to say that, or "I wish I bought clothes from this." You're not. It's hands down my stuttering.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It's
it.
interesting,
and there's nothing bad about that.
It comes so quick.
But it's quick because this is a daily. This is your life without. But that's also what makes you unique. That's what makes me unique. I mean, that if that's what some people know you for. So let it be.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter. It's that's Sherv. So what?
Yeah.
It's just got to be comfortable in your own skin. That's that. I mean,
I've heard people say that it's charming. Have you heard people say that?
No.
Yeah, and it's funny. The people that say it's charming, or people who have talked about how uncomfortable I get talking to people and say, "Oh, they probably think it's charming." No.
What's charming about it?
You don't know. It's again.
If anybody out there thinks it's charming, please leave a comment.
Yeah, please leave it in the comment
how
section.
And why, and I would love to read that.
Yeah. Do you think it's charming?
I don't
really?
think so.
No.
Not
at all. Not at all.
So, yeah, I think we've exhausted this topic, and we've kind of, rambled on and on and on, but. This topic is important. So
it's important to us. I'm sure it's important for you. If you have any topics you would like us to touch on in the future, please leave it in the comment section. We're here to help.
We're open to suggestions,
and we can
whatever
learn from you.
Yeah, exactly. We're not here like as the guys that stutter and we want to teach the world. Not at all.
No.
We're just here because we decided to take this, public, our speech impediments, our challenges every day, and talk to the world, talk to you guys who have the same. Maybe.
And also, as a request, if you have seen a speech therapist, if you have a speech psychologist, they've told you something that worked or something that's really improved your quality
Please
of life.
share.
Please tell us. We'd love to hear it.
Share it, and then we'll actually, we can share that with everyone.
Yeah. Let's not let this be a secret. I mean, we're all in this together.
Yep.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks,
Please
guys.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Down below.
Look forward to our episode 2.
Thanks, guys.
Godspeed.